So you're thinking about making a move to the Portland area, but you're kind of wondering, like, you've heard some rumblings about there are people moving out of Portland, and what are those reasons specifically? So in this video, we're going to talk about 6 different reasons why people make the move out of Portland, and we're getting after it right now.
If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Portland, then click the subscribe button and tap that notification bell so that you can be the first to know.
I'm Ann Stewart. This is Erica Hagfirst. We're your go-to gals if you're thinking about making a move to the Portland area. We get people calling and reaching out to us all the time via text, email, or phone call. So if you're in the market to move to the Portland area, all of our information is in the description below. We would love the opportunity to help you make a smooth move to Portland. So we're talking about the reasons why people move out of Portland. Now, during the COVID times, we saw a lot of people move out of Portland, but we're going to jump into a lot of reasons why people just generally move out of Portland. And the first one is
cost of living. It's pretty spendy to live here. I would say the biggest thing that people are looking at is our housing is about 60% higher than the US average. And that's huge. And we see it all the time when people move here or are thinking about moving here from other parts of the country, and they start telling us about the house that they want. And we're kind of like, what's your budget? Because a lot of times they just don't match up with what you want or what you can get for what they're bringing to the table money-wise. There have been some studies done that have looked at what it takes to live comfortably in the Portland metro area, and it's about $74,000 after taxes. So that's a pretty healthy income that you need to have to live comfortably in the Portland metro area. We're just unfortunately tend to be a little bit more expensive. In fact, Porch.com said that we're the 12th least affordable city of the major US cities, and that makes it tough for some people to stay here or move into the area.
Yeah, when you look at average rent prices in Portland, they're not any different than buying a house. So a lot of times people will make the decision to move out of state if they can, or if their job can allow them to do that. So just understand the cost of living here is high. We're not as high as Seattle, we're not as high as California, but we are still very high.
Yeah. So the next reason that we find people tend to move out of the greater Portland metro area is politics. Plain and simple, Portland tends to be a pretty far-leaning left city, at least in the greater Portland metro. That changes a little bit as you get more rural. However, we in the city are very left-leaning.
Yeah, and during COVID, we saw that kind of come to a head because we saw a huge exodus of people leaving during COVID because of all the policies and things that were being implemented. And that's where you really saw people leave because of politics. Prior to COVID, we didn't really see that. During COVID, I think 2020, 2021, and part of 2022, we really saw a huge exodus of people just specifically for politics.
Yeah, we had a lot going on in the city here during COVID. And I think it just kind of magnified. You probably did. I think it really magnified what was happening and kind of started to stir things in people that made it worth their while to put in the effort to move out of the city. That being said, it's a different story now. We're starting to see a lot more people move back into the area, but it is still a reason, I think, because politics are such a forefront topic these days, that people who want a little bit more balanced or different political view are moving out of the city. So weather is the next reason that people tend to move out of the Portland metro area. We have amazing summers. However, we do have some pretty gray and gross winters, even fall and spring. And so for some people, even the native Oregonians, they just get to the point where it's too much and they can't do it anymore. And then we have people who move into the state and realize that they can't do it either. The gray, the overcast is not a joke. It happens. It's here for a long time. It goes into our rain season. You have the gray, the overcast, the clouds, dark. And rain, and it's dark. We have,
and it's brutally cold during the winter, like bone chilling cold, where it's just the dew point's really high and it's really hard to get warm. So fireplaces are a big thing. Another video, we talked about wearing these vests because it's a great way to stay layered. But even as an Oregonian myself, I've been here my whole life, there are some years that are really hard because it's just so long in the gray season. And the one thing that makes the big difference is sometimes we have a really great summer. It starts in May. If it starts in May, where we start seeing more sunny skies and it starts getting warmer, it'll go until early October. And you feel like you've got a really good amount of time with great weather like this year in 2023. But there are years, like the year prior, we joke, sometimes Summer doesn't start until July. And a lot of times that gets people to the breaking point, because there's just there's not enough days in a row of sun to sort of make up the difference of how you feel. If you deal with seasonal depression, or maybe you're a retiree and you're thinking, gosh, I just want to be outside doing more stuff, but it's too gray and rainy here. So a lot of times people move out of state because they just want to be in warmer climates. So
yeah, I mean, we're starting to see a lot of snowbirds here, in the sense that for our, winter and spring, they will move to a nicer, warmer, sunnier climate and then come back for our summers, which I never thought I would, think Oregon was going to be a snowbird state. But we do have a lot of people moving out just because it is so gloomy and overcast. It's not really a fun and inspiring time for some people. So
actually, our #1 feeder state is Arizona, and it's a quick flight down, and people can have a house down there and have a house up here. And so sometimes that works out, but a lot of people make the permanent move out just because of weather. One of the other reasons why people move out of Portland is because they're retiring, they're baby boomers downsizing, they're realizing that their big house they don't want anymore, but they also don't want to stay in the area for, maybe it's weather related, but also it's very expensive to live here, and their money can take them farther in other places. We see a lot of people moving to other feeder states like Arizona, where they can get a one level in a community feel. There's just a lot more areas around the country that are financially better for people. It's very expensive if you stay here on a budget being retired, because you get taxed federal and state, as we've talked about in other videos. Also with estates, an estate gets heavily taxed. We're one of the most heavily taxed states in the union, that if you have an estate and somebody passes, there is big taxes over $1 million. So a lot of people don't want to, be here when that time comes. But we just really are not very financially advantageous for a lot of people who are trying to be on a budget or make their dollar go further when they're in the retirees. And we don't have a lot of 55 or older communities. There's very few of them around. They're few and far between. And also one levels, we just don't have a lot of them. Well, we do, but they're few and far between, and they always sell for more than their two-story counterparts. And that's probably one of the biggest demands we get more than anything else, is they either want a one level or a primary suite on the main. And those properties,
we just don't have them. I mean, we didn't build them for probably a good 20 years because we were trying to densify the city. I know it's not a word, but let's just go with it. But that being said, now that we are starting to build them, they are a much higher price point for, the same square footage, because they take up so much more space to build. And so because of that, a lot of people are finding that not only are our housing costs 60% more than the national average, but we don't have them. So they tend to go out of state for those. And that's just, an unfortunate situation of having a very popular city. So one of the reasons people tend to move out. So one of the bigger reasons too, I would say, that we're tending to find people moving out of the area is family. People want to be closer to grandchildren or their parents, and it's just become a big draw for people moving out of area. You just had this recently. And so did I, actually. Parents that were moving closer to their kids who were living in the city, and they've got grandkids, and it just makes sense, versus having to hop on a flight. I mean, I think we're all finding that enjoying, those people closest to us and that we love the most is very important. And so it's become a big enough draw that people move out of the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think since COVID even, that's actually been a bigger push. We saw a lot of people relocate just to say, hey, life is short, we're gonna go move closer to family, or their jobs allowed them to work from home, so they weren't as stuck being in a certain location. That was huge here, because a lot of people used to have to drive into work. And then during COVID, a lot of companies said, hey, you can work from home from here forward. So it moved a lot of people out just for those reasons. And a lot of people tried to get closer to family. And we see that also with people staying locally, just generational living. There's a lot of that happening, whether people are moving in or going out. But it's definitely a big reason why people move out of Portland.
And some of it's even the care aspect. Some parents are having to move in, or kids are having to move in with their parents to take care of them. And, we just find that it's become a really strong push. And COVID, like you said, was a big catalyst for that increase. So those are some of the reasons that we are finding people are moving out of Portland. If you're thinking that you want to make a move to Portland, or you've got questions about the Portland metro market, feel free to connect with us. All of our information is in the description below. We'd love to be your go-to gals to make a smooth move for your transition to Portland. And we'll see you on the next video.